Hello and welcome to the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast. I'm your host Ben Porter and I'm joined this week by guest host Tom Mannering.
How you doing?
You've been on the show before, Tom, haven't you?
Yeah.
Good to have you back. So what are we going to be talking about this week, Tom?
Entry level gaming.
Yep. Big deal. No matter what you play, I think.
It's essential.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to dive into that a little bit later on, but first we're going to do our weekly roundup. So, what's been happening in the realm of gaming?
So we got quite a few bits and pieces coming up.
Yep.
We got the Dominara from Magic.
Yep, that's the new expansion, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a new expansion going back to I think it's the original World of Magic, where it all began.
Okay. Well, they've been doing this quite a bit, haven't they, with Magic, revisiting old realms?
Yeah, they're really big on kind of getting back to their roots, I think, with the recent sets.
And I suppose, looking at it from a business perspective, it's a bit more cost effective to...
Stuff's already there.
Yeah, to introduce old material to people that have never seen it.
Yeah, I mean, loads of companies have done it before. Wizards are quite notorious for it, in the best possible way.
Yeah.
I mean, they do it with the D&D, and they've always been quite good for jumping back to their old content and updating it, I suppose.
So our very own Josh and Callum are at a pre-release event for that this weekend. Don't know quite what's involved in it, not being a Magic player myself, but
I'm a filthy casual, so
okay.
I only know bits and pieces, but from what I can see, it looks like an interesting set. It's caught my eye a bit more than the last couple have, but it looks like they're kind of bringing back a few of the old characters from the lore and revisiting their adventures, so I'm sure the guys will enjoy it.
Yeah, I have noticed that they seem to be trying to reinforce the lore and the fluffy element to the game a bit more of late. Like the Ixalan expansion was one of the first that I looked at and thought, maybe.
That's one with the dinosaurs, is it?
Dinosaurs, vampire, conquistadors.
Yeah. That was pirates as well, I think.
Yeah. Just about everything that is awesome was in that. It was shoehorned in.
Surprised there were no ninjas just to kind of round it out.
Yeah. You can't have everything, can you?
Take what you get.
But so that is taking place this weekend.
I think the pre-release is this weekend. The full release will be next weekend.
So when this goes live, it will be in full swing. Yeah,
they'll be wrapping up the pre-release. About now.
And not this weekend, but so it's Saturday the 28th.
Yep.
International Tabletop Day.
Yeah, big one.
Yep. Apparently so.
Loads of companies bringing out their free. Come and play this game and try it out, and getting people to dip their toes in. So I know Paizo have got some really cool stuff coming out for it, for Pathfinder and Starfinder.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't remember the name of the Starfinder one, but I know the Pathfinder one is We Be Super Goblins, which is all about playing goblins, which has kind of always been their theme for the Tabletop Day releases. Mm-hmm. And they did We Be Goblins 3, We Be 4 Goblins as well, and now they've got We Be Super Goblins. So you play a bunch of goblins who've got like quasi deity powers, and I know the cover art's kind of 4 goblins flying on this like gigantic bird of paradise. So it looks interesting.
Yeah, so it's a bit of fun.
It's a bit of fun, yeah. It's always the same 4 goblins that feature in it. They're part of a tribe. I know one's called Chuffy because that's one I usually play whenever I run him. Mm-hmm. He's a rogue. There's one that's got a wedding veil on. She's not top of bride. They're interesting characters, and it's quite fun to see their little adventures, and they're really kind of easy accessible adventures that maybe take it 2, 3, 4 hours, maybe depending on the group. So this will be the last one for first edition Pathfinder. So it'll be interesting to see what comes after it, whether they keep this format or they move to something new.
For those of our listeners that do not know, Tom is heavily involved in the Pathfinder Society, which is why he's privy to so much of this stuff. If people are interested in Pathfinder Society, where can they check that out?
So if you want to look at the source, you can go to Paizo's website. They've got loads of information on there. But if you want to see what's happening in Scotland, you've got the Scottish Pathfinder Society, or any kind of Pathfinder Society in your local area. It's worldwide, so there's lodges in just about every country. So just look up your local area for Pathfinder Society information. And if you just want to get into it with your mates, then by all means jump on Paislow's sites. There's information about the new beta there as well for them. So, but I'd definitely, if you're doing the free tabletop day, check that one out, because I bet it'll be a good laugh.
Sounds good. And speaking of tabletop day, as far as events in Scotland go, it looks as though Dwarf are going to be running the big one this year.
Looks that way, yeah.
Yeah, they've got designers, they've got all sorts going on there. So if you're in the Dunfermline area, go and check it out. I believe it's at the Del Farquharson Centre, which is their usual haunt. But unfortunately, we will not be there. We'll not be able to make it. But if you're free on International Tabletop Day, it looks as though that's going to be the big one for the Central Belt.
So you got any idea anything else that's coming out for the free tabletop day? Have you seen anything?
I haven't seen anything yet, but I do know that quite a few companies do promo cards and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I know. I've been I play the Pathfinder card game on the side, and they've been releasing like a promo card every year, and I've tried to kind of get hold of it. They're usually quite interesting. They're usually goblin themed as well, really enough to just to.
It's a strange one, because most of the retailers do something for International Tabletop Day, but it doesn't seem as though it's quite been fully adopted by everybody yet.
Yeah, I think they had, when it first came out, there was like a boom, and everyone kind of went a bit mad for it, and then it kind of simmered, and it's reached kind of a comfortable level. Yeah. But I know not everyone kind of pushed it. I think it's a space factor as well, because do you really want to get that material in if you can't then use it in store? So I don't know if maybe that's a factor.
Yeah, it's I don't think I've ever actually attended an International Tabletop Day event, and it's just unfortunate that Charlotte and myself are going to be going away. And won't be available for International Tabletop Day, because I do feel somewhat duty bound with Unlucky Frog to be checking that stuff out. But it's something I would like to see grow a bit more. Yeah, and I think that Dwarf seem to have the right idea, because they're going to be running all sorts of events. They've got game designers coming in. They're doing the works. It's not like they're just doing organised play stuff for it.
I mean, the way you've got half of it set up for you, because they're already promoting it. So all you need to do is say, "Hey, we're doing stuff for this," and you've got people coming in the door, pretty much for free promotion. And so that's the right way to do it. Just ride that wave.
I think so.
That's how I do it.
As far as other news this week, the Idoneth Deepkin, the new faction for Age of Sigmar, will be hitting the shelves.
Yeah, they're looking good. You know a bit more about them than
I've been keeping an eye on them. They're pretty out there as far as stuff that Games Workshop has done goes.
They look a bit like a cross between sort of Pirates of the Caribbean meet the Dark Elves. That kind of
yeah. They're really. It's one of these. It's a sort of Marmite scenario for a lot of people, because people go, why are they flying? They're sea creatures, and it's because of magic.
It's always magic.
Yeah. So some people are totally willing to accept that, and then other people are like that. I've seen the where's your science?
The sunken ship thing. Yeah. I love scenery. It's always been one of my jams, and that is a beautiful bit of kit.
Do you like that?
I love it. Yeah, I think it's really nice. Are you going to tell me like this is getting like cast out or something now? Aren't you? It does look like it should be in a fish tank, but it's a nice fish tank.
Yeah, it would be in a well kept fish tank.
Yeah, that's like a middle class up fish tank.
Yeah, and at first glance, because this is a criticism a lot of people have made of it, is that, it just looks like an aquarium ornament. Why am I paying that for that? But there's lots of little fishes swimming through it. There's a lot of detail that you would miss at first glance.
I think just looking at it on a web page, you're not going to see the detail, but I think it's a big bit of kit. So if you got that in person, painted up well, and you're looking at it up close, you're going to see a lot of detail there that you would miss otherwise. So I'm holding judgment back on it till I see it, but it's a bit of kit that I might pick up if I get the chance.
I mean, they look set to be a very popular faction. To put this into perspective, the Fireslayer Age of Sigmar group on Facebook has just shy of 1,500 members. Fire Slayers have been out for about 2 years now. Idoneth Deepkin have 1,700 already. So I think they're going to be big. I think you're going to see a lot of them.
These Facebook factions have like a bit of a rivalry going on. Is there a bit of sniping, or is it?
They might do, but there's an Age of Sigmar fan network that's tried to sort of bring them all into the fold, because they're all run by different admins.
Right. Okay.
but and a lot of people are members of multiple because
it's not exclusive.
Yeah. I expect there's some people that have a deep and irrational hatred of
West Side Story of Warhammer.
Yeah. But I think they're going to be popular. I think we're going to see a lot of them, and I think they are in a lot of ways going to change how the game's played because they've got the Tides of Death rules.
Okay.
And they have a different effect each turn.
Okay.
Which means that there's a rhythm to playing them.
Do they have a control of that effect or a knowledge of that effect, or is it random?
No, it's not random.
Okay.
It's set effects.
Okay, so it kind
each turn. So that's there's a set rhythm to it, which you can take advantage of, but also a clever opponent can also work around.
Okay, that's quite clever.
And it's this idea of them being the tides. You know, there's a rhythm to the tides. There's a rhythm to the deepkin.
That's an interesting mechanic.
Yeah. So I'm trying to avoid buying more stuff. I mean, they look fantastic, but I'm if nothing else, I'm really looking forward to playing against them.
Setting up an aquarium, Charlotte. That's fine, you know.
Yeah,
it's not a model.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to buy that. Yeah, she knows.
So next week, I'm not a tabletop day either, unfortunately. Nope. So I'm doing a Call of Cthulhu game.
Yes.
So this is my sort of new thing. As I'm trying out Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. So I've been playing a few games. A friend of mine, Matt, runs it online. Fantastic GM, very, very creepy. Even with online play, you'd think kind of, you're comfortable, you're in your bedroom playing online on Roll20 or whatever. Quite a comfortable environment, but very creepy games. First sort of mini campaign we're playing members of sort of a military organisation.
Okay.
In the modern day that are dealing with the Cthulhu mythos.
So it's modern day as opposed to...
It's modern day rather than kind of the classic sort of
roaring 20s.
1920s, 1930s aesthetic. And you think with all the military hardware behind you kind of run it, it's just a run home, but it's not. My character in the recent one died in an explosion, which was tragic, running away from a monster. So, didn't get killed by the monster, did get killed by the explosion. So I'm running my first game on Saturday for a few friends.
Okay.
But I'm going for a 1980s aesthetic.
Oh. A little bit Stranger Things.
Yeah. Thinking kind of a bit Stranger Things. Kind of playing on that sort of surrealism of the 80s as well, coming off the back of the 70s.
Yeah.
And that kind of pre-90s buzz. So not quite figured out how I'm gonna.
Slightly dystopian as well.
Yeah, a little bit. That kind of. Blade Runner sort of style kind of thing to it, but in the 80s. So I'm just sort of working out the kinks in that at the moment. But yeah, that's good.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it.
So what else have we been up to? Tonight we played Lords of Waterdeep.
Played some Lords of Waterdeep, yeah.
So the reason that I decided to play Lords of Waterdeep is way back in December we did our 25 days of gaming in the run up to Christmas, and each day we picked a tabletop game that one or several of us within the team enjoy, and one of the days it was Lords of Waterdeep, and you mentioned that you never played it and you really want to.
I think it's completely up my street. I love that kind of game. I love Forgotten Realms. It's close enough to D&D that it's well in my ballpark. So I was really excited to get to play it with you guys tonight.
So I think we said it's probably about 6 years old now.
It must be coming up to that,
It's been around for a while, and it still stands up pretty well in this day and age where it seems like those sorts of games are being churned out.
Yeah, I mean the market's saturated with games now because they've got this kind of renaissance of popularity. But on its own, I mean the artwork's fantastic. The narrative behind it's really intriguing. Even if you don't know anything about it, it draws you in. And I think it's a really compelling game to play. I mean, I had a great time, and it's not too long either. It's a good length game. It's got a sort of finite time scale to it, so it's not one of those games that you're going to be there for 6 hours. It's not the zombie situation from. Sorry, I think it's bringing it back. I'm going to need to go for counselling. But no, that's a great point actually about Lords of Waterdeep, that it is just the right length for a game like that, because a lot of resource management worker placement games can be a drag. Yeah, they can be a slog. I think you can hit a point where the game could realistically come to a close.
Yeah.
but it can drag on for another 3, 4, 5 turns, which can effectively be hours. Whereas Lords of Waterdeep puts a very, very tight scale on it. And obviously, that's going to get a bit bigger if you've got more players because you've got more people to go around. But otherwise, it's
very slick. And even because you don't actually have to refer to the rulebook very often. Obviously, we've played it a number of times, Charlotte and myself. But even like it's been over a year since I played it. I had a quick glance at the setup, and then that was it.
You came back to
it because it's one of those games where it's just do what it says on the card.
I think if the gameplay is fairly intuitive, the information's on the cards, and especially if you've got someone who's got even just a working knowledge of it.
Yeah,
you're going to fly through it. I mean, the rulebook's hardly a tome; it's a pamphlet really. So it gives you an idea of how simplistic it is.
Yeah, it's a great game, and I don't think it gets anywhere near as much praise as it deserves.
Definitely.
So, other games I've been playing, Charlotte and myself revisited Arkham Horror, the card game. He just sits up there and plays like Fortnite or something. Like seriously, like he's like 20 and he does nothing except play video games all day and just like shouts, and you hear him every so often like, "Oh my god, man!"
That's like a podcast feature.
Just like swear of the week.
He's had it again.
So we jumped back in. We can edit all this shit out. So, don't worry about it. So we jumped back into the Arkham Horror card game base set, the Night of the Zealot campaign.
So what's the deal there? What's the narrative to it?
So you are trapped in your study and can't find a way out.
I've had that so many times.
Yeah, it happens to me all the time. You finally find your way out and you meet this, she can only be described as a lunatic called Lita Chandler.
Okay.
Who tells you, spoilers, you have to burn your house down. Right? Yeah.
Sure.
So there's like, all sorts of nasty stuff's happening. It's Lovecraft. There's like ghouls scurrying about the house and all that. So we have to set fire to your house.
Okay.
So depending on
of course.
But this is the really cool thing, is it's a card game, but at the end of each cycle, I suppose, well, I shouldn't say cycle, it's a living card game, so cycle means the whole damn thing.
Okay.
But at the end of each chapter, you get to essentially make a choice.
Okay.
It's a little bit like a choose your own adventure in that respect, and those choices that you make have consequences to the next game.
So is that consequences to your next game or to the campaign as a whole? What's the, like, is it sort of, does it affect you personally, or do you like
both? It could be both.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So when we chose to burn my house down, I suffered mental trauma for that.
I mean, it's not the best. Yeah.
So, like, all my stuff went up in flames, But
my stamp collection.
No. All my magic cards. But because we set fire to the house, Lita's like, these are my kind of guys. So you get her card as an ally.
Right. Okay.
Whereas the first time we played it, we were like, you are one crazy bitch. I'm not setting fire to my house. And it meant we didn't get her as an ally.
Okay.
And she's a very good ally because she buffs your damage against monsters.
So is this is it cooperative?
It's cooperative.
And is it, how many players is that?
So the core set gives you enough to play it with 2.
Okay.
But I think if you've got more core sets, you can scale it up. Yeah.
So are you playing against sort of a core deck, or
you play against an encounter deck? So it's a lot like the Lord of the Rings card game. If you've ever played that.
Yeah.
It's very, very story driven. So for people that absolutely have to have a competitive element to their game, it's maybe not for them.
Yeah.
But I love being confronted with this horrible challenge and then having to work together as a team.
Yeah. And this is the same guys who do the Arkham Horror, Eldritch Horror, Elder Sign, all that cup of tea.
Yeah, it's Fantasy Flight, so it's the same team,
quality of,
same artwork. A lot of the times, it's a phenomenal card game. I can't recommend it enough.
Okay.
But we actually managed to complete the whole campaign in the base set.
Okay.
By throwing Lita under the bus.
Okay.
So in the last chapter of this Night of the Zealot story, you have to try and disrupt this ritual.
Okay.
And if you don't do it in time, this eldritch horror appears. He's like this malevolent god, standard Lovecraft fare.
Yep.
But you get this choice. If you have Lita as an ally, it's like, hold on a minute, this thing's after her, and you throw her into the monster.
Okay.
And you win the game.
That's cool.
It's cool, but horrifying at the same. Yeah. And so it was quite funny because I knew that I had Lita in my deck, so I was cycling through my cards to try and get her.
Okay.
Charlotte had this whole other plan, because it's one of these things where you're limited in the information you can share with each other.
Right, okay.
So she didn't know what I was trying to do.
Okay.
Charlotte's trying to disrupt this ritual, but can't do it, and then feels defeated. And then I go, but it's okay, I've got Lita, we can throw her at the monster. We're going to win. We're going to be okay. And Charlotte said it just didn't feel like a victory for her. Because her whole little plan unravelled.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that epitomises the Lovecraft universe.
That's definitely mythos,
So it's all your plans, all that's important to you, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's inconsequential.
Yeah, you're nothing.
The deck's stacked against you from the word go.
Yeah.
So is that the end of the narrative for that?
That's the end of that narrative. I think Fantasy Flight are releasing a box set called Return to Night of the Zealot.
Okay.
That's going to expand upon that.
Okay.
So I'm quite interested to.
Lisa's going to get a payback.
Yeah.
Yo, Ben, about that buzz.
Do you remember that time you threw me that monster? I survived. But it's going to be good seeing them expand upon existing story. But we do have the Dunwich Legacy that we're going to dive into at some point. And I'm really looking forward to playing that. It's fast becoming one of my favourite games.
On the subject of mythos, actually, I picked up the Omens of the Pharaoh for Eldersign, which is all about sort of the Egyptian side of things. So you actually go to Egypt in that, and I love Egypt. It's just a wee expansion for Eldersign, and that's really, really good as well. A lot of narrative sort of elements to it.
I have only played the digital version of Eldersign.
Okay.
Never played the physical.
I love it. I've got all the expansions for it. And Omens of the Pharaoh has probably been one of my favourites so far.
As far as the sort of Cthulhu mythos games go, it's pretty simple and streamlined.
I'd say it's probably I don't know about Arkham Horror as a card game, but I know compared to Arkham Horror the full game, and even Eldritch Horror to a lesser degree, it's probably the quicker one. Although I did play Eldritch Horror for the first time recently, and I really enjoyed that.
We still talk about that one game of Arkham Horror we had as the benchmark of terrible planning for a game.
Well, when we talk about entry level gaming, I think Arkham Horror is maybe one that's you want to pull that one back for a little bit and maybe start with something
because that was Amy's first games night.
It was, yeah.
I'm surprised she
came back.
Yeah, she did. Brave.
Yeah. I wouldn't.
Yeah, but because we were talking about that in the Polyhedron Collider panel at AirCon.
Okay.
That came up because the question that was put to the panel was, is there any time that you've just thrown in the towel with a game? and then I mentioned that one. Yeah, we decided it would be a great idea for my friend's girlfriend's first game night to play an 8-man game of Arkham Horror. And the whole place just erupted in laughter.
Yeah, ill decisions, really.
Yeah, that says it all.
That's a lesson learned.
Yeah. I mean, it was a bit of a laugh, but
not fair.
No.
It's like the fear of God.
Yeah, fear of gods.
Gods, yeah, elder gods.
Yeah, as it were. So, entry level gaming. We've talked about this before.
We have, yeah.
I feel like it's something that it seems so obvious, but I feel like it's very often overlooked.
I think so, yeah. I think it's in any form of gaming, and especially in the board gaming genre, it's essential. You can't just chuck people in at the deep end.
No.
It's using that Arkham Horror game as an example. If you introduce someone to something that complex with that much depth to it as their first sort of run at that, they're just going to run screaming.
Yeah.
And with role-playing games as well, it's the same. If you get a really complex or niche game that's got a lot of complexities or idiosyncrasies to it, it's just going to drive you away.
It's like the role playing's an interesting example because Charlotte and myself, we've had a few false starts with D&D, but we've recently been doing this campaign that's been running for several months now. But we took a little break. I think this was around the time that we last had you on the podcast.
Okay.
We took a little break to try out the Legend of the Five Rings beta.
Yep. Okay.
See, going from D&D to that, it was tremendously complex. Like,
so Legends is quite a complex game.
It's quite complex, yeah.
I know I did a few Oriental style games back in the day, and they used sort of is it Rokugan, I think it's called, the setting for Legends of the Five Rings?
Yeah, because I think it has its origins in D&D.
Yeah, and there's a lot kind of honour and sort of cultural elements alone, and that's before you even bring in the gameplay that sort of envelops that.
Bushido's a game mechanic within it. Yeah.
Okay. I think if you were coming into that, fresh off the boat, so to speak, it's a lot to take on. I mean, not only are you looking at the cultural elements and how that's impacted on the rules, but then you've got this breadth of content to it and this breadth of rules sort of density.
It's a great point, isn't it? Because you could argue that we go to these alien worlds all the time, but for most people in the West, medieval fantasy is more relatable than Japan.
Oh, easily, hands down. I mean, you're not just taking sort of a time jump and a difference in setting. You're taking a cultural difference. So you're not just having to deal with it as Ben playing a dwarf in a medieval setting.
Yeah.
You're Ben playing a sort of historical Asian figure. So you're well out your depth. On that. I mean, fair enough. You're not actually a dwarf, contrary to popular belief.
You heard it here first.
But it's it is a massive adjustment, and if you want to do that system and that setting any kind of sort of justice, you want to play it as close to. So I don't know how the rules for Legend the Five Rings work, but I think if that is a more complex system, adding that on top of the cultural element, it's a lot to take in for someone brand new. I mean, if you're someone who's massively invested in that kind of culture and that kind of historical lore, you might be more inclined.
Those people are I think, a minority.
Yeah, they are. You're not going to get guys like, right, I'm super into like Japanese history and culture, but I also want to get into role playing games.
Well,
have I got the game for you?
So, the reason that this has been at the forefront of our thinking at the moment is because I went to Compulsion recently, and it advertises itself as a role-playing convention, but for me there was a very apparent absence of any of those entry-level games. So to take a step back from Compulsion and look at gaming on a wider level, what is the importance of having entry-level gaming for the wider gaming culture, do you think?
I think it's about it's prosperity to a degree. If you don't have beginners come in, you're not going to get that new enthusiasm. You're not going to get the new members and the new people coming into the hobby, be it role-playing or board gaming. It's a recruitment aspect of bringing people into the hobby, getting them involved in it, getting them invested, and then maybe they'll splinter off to more niche or more specialised systems that are closer to perhaps what they want in the long run. I know when I was heavily involved in the organised play side of things, one of the things we really did have to be mindful of was, are we getting new people in the door? Are they getting excited when they're in the games, or are they just sitting with a sort of look of confused horror as you're just dropping like bombs about lore and rules? And so you had to kind of take a step back from that and say, you don't have to take it all in, just enjoy the experience, and keep it as rules light as you can. I've ran games at conventions for kids, and you can't sit a kid down and be like, you're a fighter, you had +8 to your longsword attacks, and if you power attack you take -2 off that and get to add, and they're just going to look at you like you've gone, 1, mental, and 2, are possibly trying to sneak some school into their weekend.
That's a great point. Yeah, because there is a lot of, inevitably there's in a lot of these games there's a huge mathematical element.
Mm-hmm. I think it's hard to avoid it.
Yeah, because it's in video games the machine does all of the arithmetic for you, but in tabletop someone's got to sit down and work out how it all happens.
That's it, yeah.
So it's without sounding super nerdy, it's reminding people that numbers can be fun.
Yeah. It is. You've got to. I think you've got to sort of keep the numbers in the background, at least initially, and sort of cover them up, with just a thin veil. Sort of say they're there. They're going to be important, but don't worry about them right now.
Yeah.
Look at the cool shiny over here, and not trick them in that way, but kind of get them enticed, excited about it that way.
Yeah. As far as competitive games go, because this is a whole other issue. In a lot of ways, the issue of being beginner friendly is an easier one to approach for role playing games and cooperative games.
Yeah,
because it's just being smart about how you introduce these concepts.
Definitely, yeah.
But with games like Age of Sigmar, 40k, Magic the Gathering, where they've got this huge following, and at certain levels they can be extremely competitive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you walked into say Geek Retreat and you happened to say to some of the guys that I want to learn to play Magic, and it just so happens that you asked some of the super competitive players to introduce you to the game, that could be a huge turn off for you right away.
Straight away, yeah. I mean, unless you particularly enjoy a spanking in the Magic context, you're not going to get the experience you want.
I mean, imagine those people are out there.
There's probably, I mean, that's a niche in of itself. That's a niche in a niche. But yeah, it's not the way I'd want to be introduced to any kind of competitive. This is a game. Watch me kick you up and down the aisles with it.
And I think, for the most part, whenever I've tried a new game, I've been quite fortunate in that it's someone who was quite keen to teach me the core concept, but also make sure I have a nice time while I'm doing that.
I think in that situation, there's almost an obligation on the person who's bringing it, or the people that are bringing you into it, to take a step back from their competitive nature and sort of say, well, I might want to win, and I might win, but I want to make sure this person has a good time first. And I think if you've got a game like Magic or Age of Sigmar, you need to dial back not just the competitive elements, but maybe some of the more complex elements as well. You don't want to be hitting out with keywords left, right, and centre, and all these things that are just going to bury people down. I think companies like Magic, Wizards, do sort of like the starter decks as well, that do give you kind of a soft intro, which is quite good. And Wizards have always had their not Wizards, Games Workshop have always had their starter boxes that sort of strip out some of the more complex elements and just ease you into it.
Well, I know most of the starter boxes that Games Workshop have at the moment for Age of Sigmar do not have wizards in them.
No magic.
Okay. Because that's a whole other layer to the game.
Okay.
Which I agree with, I think, because it's like you say, that you can teach the core concepts of a game without throwing an example of every single rule within the game. And there's probably, I dare say, a lot of mechanics within Magic that you don't need to be throwing out there right away.
Definitely.
I mean, certainly with Pokemon, the card game, I wouldn't, be throwing GX Pokemon and and the special trainer cards and all that in right away.
Well, out of my ballpark, I haven't touched Pokemon since I was at secondary school.
So it's changed.
Is it a Charizard? Yes or no? That's
because you've got Mega Evolutions and all that now. But that's a great example, because even like someone coming back to a game, and you go, right, okay, we're going to Mega Evolve this Pokemon, and then we're going to make sure that you've got your EX Pokemon there, and you can play them right away, and then you've got your ability there. You'd be like, what?
I mean, even Magic as well. Magic's done some basic sets, like the Magic Origin set was quite a simple set, So if you came in at that, that's going to be fairly accessible for you. If you then came back down the line in sort of I think it was the Innistrad set, had a kind of a transform mechanic, a bit like the Mega Evolve. Yeah. If you've only played Origins, and you then come back and people start flipping cards on you, and now I'm this massive thing, you're just gonna be like, what? Yeah. I'm tapping my land. I'm playing. It's
one of the things that I think is really interesting about the entry level activity is it's almost exclusively falls to the big AAA companies to do this. And me and Dave Wright from Tabletop Scotland were talking about this because it, for all people do hate on them for a lot of things, they are imperative to recruitment. These big companies.
Yeah.
Because how often do you see an independent developer on Kickstarter saying, right, I've designed this as a gateway game.
Yeah.
It's designed deliberately to introduce core concepts to a lot of popular games that will spark interest in the hobby and hopefully get people playing other games.
I think the big difference is the bigger companies have got the time and they've got the money and they've got the resources to put those starter sets out, to put those organised play formats out that have some sort of beginner's academy or some sort of soft intro to it. If you look at sort of some of the more niche sort of war games like your Malifaux and things like that, they don't really have a lot in the way of starter sets as such. Certainly not soft starter sets that I've seen. It's always kind of like just the set, a base set. There's no kind of stripped out version of it.
Yeah, no,
because as a company, you're not going to get the profit that you would get from that core set that the others can afford to maybe take that hit.
Yeah.
Just to get people to dip their toe in and then see if they want to splash out.
Yeah, because more often than not, like you say, with those starter sets, although it's here's all you need to play the game, it's pretty clever business on their part because it's also the skeleton that you need to start an army or a cards collection or whatever.
So I remember a bit of a sad story, but when I worked at Games Workshop, we used to do sort of the base painting set that have sort of 5 models that have a unit of Space Marines and some basic paints, and it'd be like, this is all you need to kind of start painting. And you'd get the kid whose parents have bought them it for their birthday or whatever, and they'd then come in to sort of a big gaming event with their 5 Marines and be like, I'm ready to play, and you're like, not quite ready. I like your enthusiasm, and you'd get them in, you'd give them some models to use and that, but I think it's important that people know what they need to kind of come in with. So it's got to be telegraphed. I think that kind of entry level stuff as well.
Yeah, well advertised. Yeah. Which, in fairness to most of these bigger companies, it's plastered all over their, the shops or the packs that they send out to.
Yeah, it's the get stores. Started here, play with your buddy. It's like the Arkham Horror card game you were talking about. That's 2 people straight out the gate ready to play. Yeah. And it says, there's 2 people. You want more, you're gonna have to get a bit more. So it's telegraphed.
That's it. And I think one of the things that's maybe worth mentioning is don't be a snob.
Yeah.
Because there's a tremendous amount of snobbery within these hobby game communities.
Yeah.
Particularly, I think, towards some of the more quote-unquote mainstream games. You see it all the time among wargaming towards games like 40k and Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, I think it's a shame really, because even if it's not maybe what you want to play anymore, it's not necessarily what you want to be involved in. There's nothing to say that someone else isn't going to enjoy that, and that entry into that hobby, be it via 40k or Age of Sigmar or D&D or Pathfinder, isn't then going to lead to that player coming into your player pool. They might then turn around and go, actually, I want to go and play obscure game A, or I want to go and play this role-playing game that uses ridiculously complex Bushido rules. They might have their own kind of interest that spiral off.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in a hobby that's quite attractive to people that tend to be quite intellectual people, I feel in a lot of ways behave in much the same way as like a high school jock does.
Mm-hmm.
Only instead of where the high school jock lords his physicality over people he deems inferior, nerds do it with their intellect and their knowledge.
Sure. I think knowledge is probably more than intellect. It's not necessarily they're smarter. It's that they know more about this specific.
Well, the two are confused, aren't they? So
yeah.
it's like, if I know more than you, that means I'm smarter.
Yeah. I know quite a lot about Pathfinder. I know quite a lot about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
I can't, however, prescribe drugs and penicillin. I don't know anything about how to put a computer together. You know, I'm not intellectual in that context.
Uh-huh.
So it's a very sort of specific situation that they have that knowledge of, and I think they do lord that over people and almost put up barriers. You know, you can't talk to me because you're not a grade 6 D&D dungeon master. You know, you're a measly grade 1.
And this is where I feel that individuals are putting up barriers to themselves, and in the long run they're shooting themselves in the foot, because what's going to happen eventually, people see you talking like that, they're just not going to want to play with you.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I mean, you and I, we've met people like that we just avoid.
Yeah, you avoid them like the plague. And I mean, we're not even at the entry level. So if they're putting people off who are at the very least competent, you know, what are they doing to people that have nothing at all to go off? And if you see that as your first entry point into a hobby, into any kind of community, that's going to be a sour taste.
But this is the thing that's quite frustrating, is, like it or not, those people are also ambassadors for our hobbies.
It's true.
And it's maybe, you know, if you have a relationship with that person, maybe having a quiet word with them about checking their attitude.
Yeah. Check yourself.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself. That's the name of the episode.
That's it.
Yeah. Right, well, I think that's all we've got time for at the moment. Thank you once again for joining us on the podcast, Tom.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to have you, and I'm sure we'll hear from you again in the future,
whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Just at the window screaming.
Yeah.
Can I be on again?
Let me in. All right. Well, thank you for listening, folks, wherever you are, and I've been your host, Ben Porter. You've been listening to the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Hi guys, it's Josh from the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast here. Thanks for listening to us, and now be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for the Unlucky Frog Gaming. You can also show your support for Unlucky Frog through Patreon. Be sure to check out our website www.unluckyfrog.com to find out more.
Was that so hard?
Look...